I'm live, everything's live. We're right on time, cool. We'll get started. Thank you everyone for being here. Again, I was just a little worried that I've given this session as a practice a couple times and that it's at user groups where there's pizza and there's only one session, so you have to watch replication. And I was like, oh, there's gonna be like 12 sessions on, people are never gonna come learn about replication, and now, well, okay, cool. This is me. My name's Jess Pomfret. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a data platform engineer. I work for Data Masterminds, but I'm also an open source contributor. I've contributed to the DBAtools, DBA checks, PowerShell modules, and a few years ago now I wrote some resources for the SQL Server DSC module. I'm passionate about SQL Server, PowerShell, and proper football. I like to think my accent is getting back to being British, but I spent 15 years living in America. And my accent kind of transformed from being from Chippenham near Bath to Ohio, somewhere in between. So I have to say proper football so they don't think like hand egg, but proper feet things, right? Yeah. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, which means I really enjoy coming to events like this and telling you about cool things or things I think are cool. But the most important stuff on this slide is my contact information. You find me on LinkedIn or my email address. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you have a replication question, fire it through. Hopefully it's about DBAtools and replication, not just replication, but we'll cover that in a second. So this is me most of the time. This is me when I have to deal with replication. But anyway, the agenda for today. We're going to do a quick run-through about what is DBAtools. How many people are DBAtools fans already? Yes, love it. Cool. Then we will also cover what is replication. Now, there's a dragon, because when I built these slides, I started with a template that I had for last year's bits, and it was Dungeons and Dragons. And I was clearing off all the things I didn't need, and I was like, oh, actually, that dragon's pretty good for replication. We're going to keep it. But this session is really about DBAtools and replication together, which means there are some warnings. This is pretty new to the DBAtools module. It's been in there for a few releases now, and although I still have preview feature on there, it is becoming more mainstream, more people are using it, but it is brand new, and so we don't have all the things we want done yet. I'm definitely not a replication expert. Like, I'm a long way from a replication expert, but my boss, one of the guys I work for, loves replication. And so we took his replication knowledge and my DBAtools knowledge to create these commands so that we can more easily manage replication. This is not a replication best practice session. I'm going to show you how to build replication, how to tear it down, how to look at it. You might see things as people that know more about replication than me and be like, you should never do that. That's okay. When you get hold of these commands, you can build this out to be as performant as you can using all of your knowledge. I am going to show you how to do that. DBAtools. It's an open source PowerShell module, and it's written by the community for the community. We have around about 700 different commands now that basically, Chrissy, the original creator, likes to call it Command Line Management Studio. So anything you can do in Management Studio, you can transfer that to use DBAtools for. And because we're in PowerShell, we can use the power of viewing it with multiples, right? We don't have to do one database at a time if we're changing a setting. We can change all of the settings at the same time, on a single instance or on multiple instances. This is going to make managing your estate as a whole easier. If you want more information about this, dbatools.io is the website. It's also on GitHub. As I mentioned, open source. All the code is out there for you to view. There's also a fantastic book. I say it's fantastic because I was lucky enough to be one of the authors with Rob, the guy with the beard in the back, and a couple of other folks, Claudio and Chrissy. So if you're interested in learning more about DBAtools, check out that book. Replication. So this session is going to be around using DBAtools to manage replication. So we do need to know a little bit about replication, right, to kind of level set and make sure we're all on the same page. So replication copies and synchronizes database objects and the data from one database to another. And I kind of highlight the database objects part, right, because a lot of the tools out there, like availability groups and mirroring, log shipping, is all on the database level. Like, you have to do the whole database. Replication allows you to do a single table, a single column from a table, and you can even filter the rows within a table for what you want to ship or what you want to send. So this is much more flexible, and a lot of people like this if they have a massive database, but they need 5 tables of it somewhere else. It's been around since SQL Server 6.0. That's not a typo. That was a version of SQL Server. And it just works most of the time. There are some caveats, there are some challenges, but not much has changed in the last few versions. We have 3 flavors, all we'll talk about today. We have snapshot, transactional, and we have merge. Don't worry, we're not going to get too deep into merge. Don't be too scared. So let's talk a little bit about how replication works. Now, these slides are designed by the guy I mentioned, William, who loves replication. So any replication questions you have, find him. He's here in the expo hall somewhere. But he kindly lent me these slides so I can explain to you the pieces and parts and how it works, so that we can then translate that into PowerShell. So, how does replication work? Okay, on the first side, we have our publisher, which is the system that we want to send the data from. That's where our data lives. It's our source system. We're going to create publications, which will hold articles, which will be the objects we want to replicate. Those publications will then be replicated to our subscribers, and that is the system where we want the data to end up. Maybe it's your reporting system, maybe it's some other system that you're going to merge this data together. And again, on the subscriber, we'll have subscriptions and then the articles within those subscriptions. We then have a distributor. Now, this is kind of the system that is responsible for handling all this work. As changes are being replicated, they go through that distributor. Now, that database can be in a couple of places. It can be on your publisher, which is what you'll see in my demos today. You can put it on a completely separate server. If you have a lot of replication and you need to get that performance and that throughput, you're probably going to put that on a second server. Finally, we have some agents. Now, these are executables that live outside of SQL Server, but they are handled by SQL Server SQL agent jobs. Our log reader agent, our snapshot agent, and our distribution agent that you'll see in a second. So, the first flavor of replication, and the easiest, I like to start with the one that's easiest to understand. We've got snapshot replication. And what happens in snapshot replication is we have a publication on our publisher, and we've got our database that we want to publish. We have that distribution database that transactions are going to flow through, and our subscription, which is where it's going to end up. We then have our agents, a snapshot agent and a distribution agent. And what happens is the snapshot agent takes a snapshot of that publisher database, and it passes across to the distribution database and onto the subscription, using BCP as the file format. Now, this is like a point-in-time snapshot. If I run this at 6 a.m. every day to take a snapshot, 6 a.m. will be the cut of data that you have on your subscriber, right? Nice and simple, nice and easy to set up. And it also forms the base of the next flavor, which is transactional replication. With transactional replication, we have the same 3 main pieces: our publication, our distribution database, and then our subscriber. And this time we've got our distribution agent, but we've also got a log reader agent. So to initialize this, you'll do a snapshot, similar to what we just saw. And then the log reader agent will watch for transactions coming out of the publication database through the log file, and those will be sent through the distribution database, and off to our subscriber. Perfect. Still pretty straightforward, right? And in this one, we'll take an initial snapshot to initialize, and then any transactions that happen on the publication will just filter through in near real time. There's no guarantee on when that transaction will get there. If you have a lot of transactions going through, you will see some latency. So it's not real time, but it is near real time. Merge replication. Any merge replication fans? 1, okay, great. Merge replication is a bit different, and it does have some cool use cases. But in this case, we've got our 3 pieces, but you'll notice that the publications are also subscribers. Our distribution database is in the middle, along with our merge agent. And what happens here is there are changes on both sides, and then the magic is the merge agent has to do exactly what it says on the tin. It has to merge those changes and get them across to the other side. That seems fine, right? The problems happen when there are conflicts, right? And if the same rows are updated on each side, there's this whole conflict resolution thing that is way out of scope for this session, but just something to be aware of. One super cool use case for this was one of the guys I work for had a situation where there were boats off in the sea doing things, obviously not with internet connection, and they all had their own databases, their own systems on each ship. When the ships went off into the middle of nowhere, they did their own thing, and when they came back to port, they came back and the merge agent was run to merge the changes, so everyone had the latest. Which, there are many other use cases for this, but that's a really good one, because you have to have the whole database available for each ship, but those changes need to be replicated back once you have it. Cool. Any questions on how replication works so far? Perfect. Any questions online? Kai, we good? Great. DBAtools commands for replication. As I said, this is a pretty new feature, and we had some challenges getting it in there, which is why it's taken us this long. Replication depends on RMO, Replication Management Objects, whereas the rest of DBAtools pretty much relies on SMO, SQL Management Objects. So we had to get more libraries in, and we had to learn how to interact with those libraries to be able to write these commands. Now, I know that's pretty small. There won't be a quiz on all of the command names afterwards, but these are the ones that we've got in there so far. And they allow us to completely set up replication and tear it back down. Good news is, with DBAtools, we like to make things easy. Find DBA command with the tag replication will get you this exact list, and any that we add in the future. We do a really good job, or I like to think we do a really good job, of putting command-based help on the commands so that they all have tags, they all have examples, they all tell you exactly what the parameters should be. So that's a good one to remember. All right, with that, we're going to go build some replication, hopefully, live. The demo files are all available on my GitHub already. That link, Jess Pomfret, is my user, and then DBAtools replication. The PR that we pushed, the first bulk of replication commands is here if you want to go back and read the chat and the comments on that as we work through it. But we're going to try and change over to this, and hopefully you'll be able to see VS Code. That doesn't look like it. Cool. This is nice, isn't it? Lucky there wasn't an embarrassing picture of me up there. Try and duplicate, that would be awesome. Okay, VS Code. First thing we're going to do is we obviously need a DBAtools module imported. So let's run that import module DBAtools. That's going to bring the latest module that I have on my system into my session. If you don't have a copy of DBAtools, install -module DBAtools will pull it down from the gallery for you. I've got 2 SQL instances in this wonderful little Azure lab. Is this big enough for the folks at the back? Can you see okay? Great. Oh no, I already can't connect to my SQL instances. So this is running in Azure. I've got 2 domain joined SQL instances, SQL 1 and SQL 2, but I'm unable to connect right now. And some of you will probably start to see this message in the other tools that you use that uses SMO, SQL Management Objects. A couple of probably 6 months ago now, they changed the default. Microsoft changed the defaults in that module to make it more secure for us. And you now need to connect to your SQL servers with encryption, unless you specifically say, I understand, I'm going to connect unencrypted. This is a test system, so this is perfectly fine. When you're running this at home, or at home, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, some of us have SQL servers at home. But at work, where it's not weird to have SQL servers, you need to think about whether you want to encrypt that traffic or whether you're happy with this. Now, this was the default for a long time, so it's not like a massive change that you need to immediately do something about, but it is something you should be thinking about. So we'll use set DBAtools config to basically say, trust the server certificate. Our traffic will be encrypted with that self-signed certificate instead of another certificate that we will have set up. Connect DBA instance, you can now see I've got 2 SQL instances. They're both running SQL 2022, and they're on Windows. Great. Now with PowerShell, I like to recommend that people start with the get commands. Now get, as you can imagine, gets information, right? It's pretty safe. Now, I'm not going to say just run this wherever you want, everything's fine. Obviously, still test this out, but get commands are relatively safe. I'm just going to get information. And this one, get DBA REPL distributor, is going to get distributor information from SQL 1. Now, this is basically to prove to you that I've got no replication set up right now. SQL 1 is not a publisher and it is not a distributor. That's good. We can also view publications with get DBA REPL publication. Again, I'm just passing in a SQL instance, and it's kind of low down there, but you can see, typing, that there are no publications available currently on my system. That's good. We're going to build publications, and I don't want you to think that I built these and have one like in the oven ready to go. None of that. Again, get DBA REPL article, does what it says on the tin. Do I have any articles? I do not. Get DBA REPL subscription, no subscriptions currently. Now, as we work through this, you need to know a little bit about replication in order how to set it up. The first thing we need to do is we need to enable it for distribution. So I am going to run enable DBA REPL distributor against my SQL 1 instance. And what that's going to do is it's going to create that distribution database, that system database, and it's going to enable this for distribution. You can see that came back true. And one interesting thing that's annoying to me is the distribution database is nothing. Now, this is information being returned from RMO, which is the Microsoft library. When you enable distribution, it doesn't know about the distribution database until the next time you run again. So if I reran get DBA REPL server, it would tell me that there is a distribution database, and it's named distribution, which is the default. The next step is to enable publishing. I'm going to put my publisher and my distributor, my distribution database on the same instance because this is just a test setup. You can now see that the results do, in fact, have a distribution database. And this SQL 1 instance is both a distributor and a publisher. Let's go ahead and run get DBA REPL distributor now. And you'll see the exact same information from that last command. There's a couple more properties, but true for both is publisher and is distributor. Cool. Let's add some publications. So first off, we'll add a transactional publication. Now, I'm using splatting to display the code, which is just a way of formatting PowerShell code so it's easier to read. I've got a hash table with parameters, the name of the parameters on the left to the value of the parameters on the right, and then I just smoosh them into new DBA REPL publication with that @pub syntax. Cool. That came back. You can see the type is transactional, and currently this publication has no articles, no subscriptions. It's just kind of the shell of the publication, right? While we're here, we might as well have some fun. Let's add a merge publication. The only difference here, I'm using the same database, AdventureWorks LT 2022, from my SQL 1. Everything is going to be published from that same database. But the type here is merge, and I'm super great at naming things, so I've named this one Mergy. It also helps me keep track of them later on. But finally, we'll add a snapshot one named Snappy. It's good, it's okay. Cool. So now I've got 3 publications, which means if I now run get DBA REPL publication, I'll clear the screen so you can see that a bit better. So it didn't matter that I cleared the screen. I've got 3 publications, and you can see they've got no articles, they've got no subscriptions, but we've got that information. Now, what's really cool about PowerShell is this isn't just text being returned, right? If you're coming from a Linux background, you're used to using bash scripts, or even command prompts on Windows, you get text output. You can't really do anything with it. But with PowerShell, we return objects. So if I do get DBA REPL publication specifically for the test publication, and I store it in a variable, I can then run testpub get member, and that'll tell me all the properties, all the methods that are available on that object. And if I scroll up, you can see that the type is a Microsoft SQL Server replication trans publication. So this is an actual publication object that you can interact with. So if there's stuff missing in the DBAtools commands right now, you can create that object and update settings. Like if there's a specific thing you need to do, like if we look at these methods, or perhaps you need to validate the subscriptions. So you could use, oh, it just moved. Okay, maybe we need to refresh subscriptions. There's a method on this object that you could call if you're used to writing code that's object-oriented, and you could use these objects to do that. You can also see that there's a lot more properties on these than we return by default. So with all of the DBAtools commands, we pick what we think you most likely want to see to display. And it's usually like 5 to 7 parameters or properties. If I do format list, you can see all the things are available. So there's a lot more information hidden that you can get at. I'm now going to add an article. So for my test publication, which was my transactional one, I'm going to add an article for the sales LT customer table. And I'm also going to add a filter. So you can see here that I'm filtering on last name equals Gates. And that means that only the rows that meet that where clause will be replicated to the other side, which I think is super neat. So I'll run add DBA REPL article, and that will come back basically with the parameters that I've passed in. The publication name, the type, and the information about the article. In the interest of time, I'll run through this quickly, but I'm going to add the sales LT product article to the Mergy publication, and sales LT address to the Snappy publication. These are not filtered, these are just the whole table is going to be replicated. If I now view the articles with get DBA REPL article, you can see that information has been returned, and I've got 3 articles, 1 in each publication. Now, one of the things we can't see off the default properties that we've chosen is to see the filter. Now, I added that where clause, but what I can do is I can use select object. My network connection is a little sketchy, and I'm doing this in Azure. That's fine. Come on. Here we go. All right, so I'll do get DBA REPL article for that same SQL 1 instance, the publication of test pub, and then I'll select certain columns, which you can see in the bottom, and I can actually choose to return the filter clause. So the information is there. If you don't see it all right off the bat, look at the properties, and you should find what you need. If I rerun get DBA publication at this point, you can see that the articles is started to be populated. So each publication has an article now, and it's actually an object. You can see by the curly braces that it's not just text, so that's a rich object. So I could dive into that and see more about the articles if I wanted to, which is exactly what I have here. So here I'm doing get DBA REPL publication for the SQL instance, for SQL instance 1, Snappy, and then because I say .articles, I'm saying give me the articles for that publication, and all that information will be returned. That's the exact same object and information as if you ran get DBA REPL articles, but if you're dealing with the publication and you're in the middle of a script, you can do it this way if you wanted to. Let's add subscriptions. So this is where the data is going to go, right? Currently we've got publications, we've got articles, but we're not shipping it anywhere. We're not replicating it anywhere. I'm going to use new DBA REPL subscription, and I'm basically going to say the SQL instance is SQL 1, that's the publisher. The database is AdventureWorks LT 2022, that is my publisher database, where the publication is. And I'm going to replicate to SQL 2, database by the same name. The publication name was testpub, and the type is push. With replication, you can have push or pull replication. I don't know why you would use pull, but there must be scenarios for it. Great, I like that. Okay, so the comment was that they use pull replication because of a secure environment where they can only pull data in, they can't push it through to that client. Okay, awesome. Good. Today I learned. So let me add that subscriber. That was for our transactional publication. And for fun, we'll also add a subscriber to the merge publication. You'll notice I've changed the subscription database name to merge. Again, I'm using push, and I will add a subscription to Snappy. This one's going to go to AdventureWorks LT 2022 Snap. Cool. So once I have this set up, I have everything in place to do replication, basically, right? I've got 3 publications, an article in each one, a subscriber to each of those publications. And if I now do get DBA REPL subscription, you can see the subscriber name, the subscription information. The thing I want to mention here is that SQL Server keeps replication subscription information at the publisher side. So the SQL instance is going to be your publisher instance, which messed me up to begin with because I wanted the instance to be the where the subscription was, so SQL 2. But the information isn't there to get. So we've targeted the publication, which is on SQL 1, and then you can see the subscription information is name, subscriber name, subscription database at the bottom. Cool. If we view the publications again one last time, you can see that I've now got articles and I've got subscriptions for each one of my publications. Again, those are objects. You can interrogate them if you want. I'm now just going to run the snapshot agents for each one of those publications. I'm using get DBA agent job, and I'm saying give me all of the snapshot replication jobs on that instance and run them. Probably not something you want to do in production, but I know in this case, this is my test instance. I've put 3 there, and I want all 3 to be executed. While that is running, let me show you replication monitor. Let me just refresh that, or do I have to remove it? I think I have to remove it. Okay. So to get to replication monitor, you'll come into your system and you'll right-click on replication, and you'll say launch replication monitor. And that brings up this fancy little GUI. If I open this, uh-oh, it's already broken. Nobody panic. You can see my publisher, and then I've got 3 publications. You'll notice, if you can see, I know it's still a bit small, the logos or the little icons are different. So merge is like arrows coming together, the snapshot is like a cute camera, and the test pub is just like a forward arrow. If I click into one of these and I go to the agents tab, you should see we've got 2 agents. Here is the snapshot agent. So for our transactional publication, our snapshot is like that initialization. And you can see that's happened. We're at 100%. A snapshot of 1 article was generated. Once that snapshot is there, the log reader agent picks up, and it'll monitor for any new transactions coming through and ship them through. No replicated transactions are available at the moment. Great. If we look at Snappy, it's upset. You can tell by the little retry arrow. And actually, it's already retrying. Basically, what happens is if you kick off all the snapshot agents at the same time, they just bang into each other, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. But it did deadlock. You can see transaction, this says it was deadlocked. So this one lost, the other one won. But if we refresh now, yeah. 1 snapshot, 1 generated. So snapshot publication is good. Transactional publication is good. Let's check on the merge one. Okay, the snapshot ran fine for merge. That was also generated. And then for merge, because of how it works, the ships come back together. We then have to sync the things. We'll just start synchronizing here. And this will show us when it's done. There we go. Applied the snapshot and merged in, no changes, right? There's been no changes since the snapshot, so no conflicts here. We're all good. All right, replication's working. Perfect. I'm going to prove it to you. So on SQL 2, which is my subscriber, you can see I have 3 SQL queries. I'm going to select the data from Sales LT Customer, which was our transactional publication, product, which was our merge publication, and then address, which was our snapshot. You can see I've got 3 results. So all of this data has made it to SQL 2. We have successfully set up replication just with DBAtools and got this data where it needs to go. No, nothing? No sharing? Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. Let's just, before we move on, notice that this data at the top, this is the one with the filter, right? I said I only want rows where the last name is Gates, and that's exactly what we got. Perfect. I'm now on SQL 1, and if I look at the rows with Gates, I've got 2 rows. Let's prove that it's actually working, right? Let's hope that it's actually working. I'll insert a row, Mr. Bill Gates, and you can now see that data on SQL 1. I've got 3 rows. Here's the new one I just inserted. If I come back over here and I check on the customer data, yeah, it already made it. Here it is. So this is on SQL 2. That row was replicated because it was inserted on SQL 1. The log reader agent was like, oh, some activity, and it shipped it through that process and got it to SQL 2. If we look in replication monitor, in my test publication, on my log reader agent, you can see that 1 transaction with 1 command was delivered. So this is the piece that will run continually, right? And this will watch for transactions. And obviously this is a test system. There's been one transaction in 5 minutes. Of course, it was pretty quick to get there. But if you configure replication to the best practices and you know what you're doing and you've got it set out, split out across boxes, this can be pretty performant. Like, you can get data where it needs to be pretty quickly. Cool. All right. Now, this is the important part. Does anyone have questions on replication before we completely destroy it? Because if we get to the end and you're like, oh, can you just show me that thing in there? I can't, because I'm going to destroy it. Great. Question over there. Great question. Love it. Okay, so the question was, do we have any commands that will monitor replication, look for issues, that kind of thing? Not yet. So as I mentioned, we've got kind of the base in there that we can to get replication starting to make it easier to manage. Monitoring is definitely on the list for what I want to add, that's for sure. Yes?
Can you control when you take the initial snapshot when setting up a transactional replication?
So the question is, can we control when we take that initial snapshot when we're setting up transactional replication? Yes, so the snapshot agent is run by a SQL agent job. So if you put a schedule on that SQL agent job, that's when the snapshot will run. I don't know, currently when you set it up, there isn't that command, but the job doesn't have a schedule. So if you set up replication, it will just wait to be initialized. So if I then, you could use set DBA agent job step, something like that, to add the schedule. It's probably set DBA agent job schedule, actually. Thanks, Rob. And then you could add the schedule for like 6 p.m. That snapshot agent would run then, and then replication would pick up from them. Please test it, but that's how I think it'll work. All right, time for one more? Yeah.
What he did using DBAtools, that seems to be like the third-party open source tool.
Yep.
Can you do all of that in SQL Management Studio?
Great question. So the question was, I'm showing how to do it in DBAtools, but can all this be done in Management Studio, right? Yes, you can do it natively with Management Studio, either through the GUI, or there are T-SQL scripts that are really long, but you can use to set up replication in the exact same way, yeah.
So what's the advantage of using DBAtools?
Great question. So the follow-up question is, why would I use DBAtools to do this instead of Management Studio? Personally, I would rather script things, because then I know exactly how they are. I can check them into source code. I know exactly how I built my environment. But it also allows you to do things more quickly. So I could set up 4 publications just as easy as I could 1 publication, right? Whereas in Management Studio, I'm going to have to click through and be like, new publication, type in the name, go to the articles, select them. It's just more manual. Exactly. Management Studio, we have the GUI, we have the wizard. Once you're familiar with that, you can translate it to doing it in code. Great question. Exactly. Automation all the way. Perfect. All right. I'm going to move on and destroy things, because we want to be able to destroy them within the time. But I will take more questions at the end. Appreciate it. Cool. All right. So removing stuff, I'm going to do it in the exact opposite way that I built it, right? So it's like this kind of pyramid of building publications, adding articles, adding subscribers. So I'm going to remove subscribers, remove the articles, remove the publications. Remove DBA REPL subscription is going to do just that. Oops, that's the wrong one. So I'm going to remove the testpub publication, the subscription from the testpub publication. And maybe you can see at the bottom, I've got a warning. It says, are you sure you want to do this? This is crazy. Why would you destroy replication? All of the DBAtools commands that are destructive have this warning, okay? So you have to confirm either in the console, like so, by praying, yes, I'm sure, or on the next one, you can pass in the confirm equals false. So I know what I'm doing, don't worry. Confirm false, we're good. Cool, let's get rid of the Mergy subscription. Let's get rid of the Snappy subscription. Perfect, and because I did that confirm false, it doesn't prompt me, it just does it, it just gets rid of it. Obviously, when you're doing this in your automation, you don't want it to wait for any user prompts, so you'll use this confirm false. Now, when we remove an article, we could do it in the same way. We can use remove DBA REPL article, and specify the properties of the specific article we want to get rid of. But with PowerShell, and to your question about why PowerShell, I can also use piping. So with piping, in PowerShell, you'll basically take the output of the command on the left, so get DBA REPL article on SQL instance 1, get me all of the articles in publications on SQL 1, and it passes that data straight through and removes the articles. Now, I use this cool what if parameter, and this is partnered with the confirm parameter. So what if says, if I ran this, what would happen? Which is nice, right? Because maybe I'm not completely sure, but you can see down at the bottom it says, what if performing the operation, removing the article, specific article, from the snappy publication on that. You can make sure only the things you want to be removed are going to be removed, and then you can run it for real. Get DBA REPL article, pipe it through, remove DBA REPL article. I didn't use the confirm parameter, so it will say, are you sure? And in this case, I can use A, which means yes to all. Anything coming through that pipeline, yes, delete it, it's fine. Don't ask me 3 times, right? Neat, that's articles gone. Let's remove publications. So I can do that with remove DBA REPL publication. I'm just specifying the SQL instance, the database, and the name of the publication. That's our transactional one. There's our snappy one. There's our mergy one. Again, I'm being prompted because I didn't use confirm. Those are gone. And I could have done the same with piping. I could have said, get DBA REPL publication, give me all of them, trash all of them. Nice and easy. The last things we want to do to, that's the piping. The last things we want to do is put that instance back to how it was. Replication is completely gone. I'm going to disable it from being a publisher. You'll notice I get a prompt on this one too because it is also destructive. Please do that. And you'll notice I also get a warning, which is actually an error, which is sad. And it says it's unable to disable replication because there are databases still enabled for replication, which is like a weird bug that I'm working through currently. So what's interesting is RMO says there are databases enabled for replication, but there aren't because we went through the process of tidying everything up and they're gone. So it did actually disable this instance for publishing, but it has provided a warning that it didn't manage to do that. There is an issue open currently on the DBAtools repo, and hopefully after my bits crazy week is over, I will get back to resolving this. Final thing is we'll remove the DBA REPL distributor, which will not only disable it for distribution, but it will clean up that distribution database that was created. Let's go ahead and run get DBA REPL server, which gives us the information about our server, and you can see we're back to where we were. It's not set up for distribution, it's not set up for publication or for publishing. And in Replication Monitor, you can see that not only is all of the publications gone, but SQL 1 is now got an X because it's not a publisher. We can't monitor replication on a server that is not involved in replication. Destroyed. Great. Cool. All right. Oh, it did work. Okay. Great. So as I mentioned, those demo files are all available on GitHub. Pull them down. There is instructions in there on how to build up 2 Docker containers. All of these except merge work on Docker containers. So you can play with these commands and test them out in a test environment before you take them to your production environments. But yeah, play with these commands. File issues on the GitHub repo if you find things that are missing, like the monitoring stuff. The more information we get, like more monitoring, the more likely we are to work on it. And like I said, that one is on my list already, but yeah, appreciate it. If you're like, I want to learn more, I've got a blog, jesspomfret.com. I have got I think I have 3 of the 4 posts that I plan to have done before bits, because past Jess promised they would be done before bits and hasn't quite delivered. But I've got basically all of the demos we ran through today in like a series of blog posts if you'd rather read through it. The last one should be out next week. And that will cover all of the demos we saw today. The book, DBAtools in a Month of Lunches. If you want to learn more about DBAtools, this is a great resource. Replication is not included in the book. Maybe Rob will write a version 2. I don't know. Maybe he won't. Let me tell you. Writing a book was the most amazing experience, but at the end we were like, oh, let's never do that again. But hey. The GitHub, it's an open source project, data platform community. This is where DBAtools lives. This is where DBAchecks lives. There's also a bunch of other content out there if you want to go there and check it out. Another final way to learn, I'm a LinkedIn Learning instructor, and I have 3 courses out there, 2 on T-SQL topics, but I have 1 just on automating SQL Server with DBAtools. So if you have access to that content, check that out. I've got some good videos on backups, on migrating, on just general DBAtools stuff. This isn't databases. As we wrap up the session, me, Rob, and Rob's wife, Tracy, are going to ride 100 miles, me and Rob, and 100 kilometers for Tracy this summer to raise money for Momentum in Fitness. Momentum are being kind of highlighted by Bits. This year, they actually have a booth in the expo hall. My wife is there, so if you say I went to Jess's session, that would just make me look good. That would be cool. But we are going to ride 100 miles, so if you have any spare change to throw at us, that would be super cool. This charity basically takes fitness to people that have barriers to not be able to exercise. Kids that are not in mainstream schools for a whole variety of reasons come in and do an hour of CrossFit once a week. And they also go to a kids' cancer ward and just take some fitness and fun to those kids. It's a super cool charity. If you visit the booth, they've got games and snacks, so get some snacks. But that is Momentum. Evening entertainment, I'm asked to tell you about the party for tonight. If you've been to SQL Bits before, you'll know that the party is epic. I am not great at partying, but I will go to this because it will be a lot of fun. I actually don't know where it is. Rob, where is the party?
The party will be in this building.
Great, the party is in this building at 7:30. See you there. At this point, any questions, we can take them at this point. I would really appreciate any feedback you have. I like to go around and do these sessions. If you think it was horrible, please tell me why. If you loved it, that would be great to hear too. But take a picture of that QR code. When you do that, filling in the feedback for all of the sessions, SQL Bits is going to donate money for every feedback they get to one of the 2 charities. Now, I would recommend Momentum in Fitness for personal connections, but the guide dogs are great too. Fill in the feedback for the charities, if not even for the speakers. Any other questions at this point? We've got 6 minutes. Yes? Yes. Great question. So the question was, do I have to go through those steps, or can I just get rid of the publication and everything below it will go? Yes, if I delete the publication, the articles automatically go to. I should have mentioned that. That's a great point. I don't actually know if the subscription will be trashed too. I think because it's all tied back to the publication, it will. What is that? Oh, that's a yes. Yes, so if you remove the publications, the things under it that are, will just go to. Yep, perfect. At the back. Oh boy. So great question. So the question was, can we add more than 1 article at a time with DBAtools? Yes, I believe you can. You can just list. Now I don't know because there are schemas. I think what you could do is you can get DBA table and then you'll pipe that to add article. If that doesn't work, it should, and I will add it. The questions have arrived. Okay, great. Perfect. Oh, it's me. Is there any options to script out or copy over the settings to a non-production environment? Great question. So one of the commands that is on our immediate list of things we want to do are the copy commands. So with DBAtools, start DBA migration was really what started DBAtools and the ability to move things from one instance to another. We want to do the exact same with replication, be able to move the distribution stuff. Before I choke, sorry. and to move publications and stuff between instances. Next question, is this possible to script out these new replications with the awesome DBAtools module? Similar question, yes, we would like to be able to create the scripts to create them somewhere else, basically. If these are your questions, please go to DBAtools on GitHub and add these as issues, because future Jess or future contributors will help add them. Do the commands support using availability groups? Not specifically for replication, if that was the question, but there are commands for managing availability groups with DBAtools already in there. Yes. Okay, I think that's all the online questions. Yes, great. Are you moderating from the phone? Oh my goodness, magic. Appreciate that. 5 minutes? 3 minutes. Okay, question over there.
Do you want to include the command to install the replication functionality, because it's not always installed if you go for minimal install?
Great point. And if this is still alive, it's not. I'm using a Bastion host. Oh, it is alive. Okay. Let me show you this real quick. So this is how I set up my demo environment. I used install DBA instance. And in this case, I installed both the... Oh, sorry, I didn't repeat the question. The question was, how do I install the replication features? Install DBA instance, I installed both the engine and the replication features. If I just didn't have that bit there, then it would do just the replication features onto that instance. Great question. Was there... Yes?
Is it possible to use input files for articles?
Is it possible to use input files for articles, as in like a spreadsheet of articles to add? Great question. So can I use a spreadsheet of articles to add to a publication? Yes. Sorry. If it doesn't work now, then we should add that, because that would be great. Yeah, so with PowerShell, we could read in that CSV or Excel file and then create a for each loop to add them currently. What would be cool is if we could just pipe it to add DBA article. Yeah. All right, we got time for one more. Even better. It's time for lunch then. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.